So we're now back to the cleaned up raw data. To restructure the source data for pivot tables, there's an automatic way to do this with the help of Power Query. First of all, ensure that you have Power Query installed in your Excel. For Excel 2016 onwards and Microsoft 365, it is already included in your pack, and you can find it in the Data menu under the Get and Transform Data section. For Excel 2010 and 2013, you need to download the Power Query add-in from Microsoft's download page, and you can find it just by Googling Microsoft Power Query add-in. So once you have that, and you have your file that you want to restructure open, just select your data and choose to format it as a table. Then you go to your data and select this from table range, and what it does is it opens the data up in Power Query editor where the magic happens. So all you gotta do is select the years or the data that you want to unpivot. So I'm gonna just press Shift and select to select everything, and go to Transform and click on Unpivot Columns. So you can change your header name by double clicking on it, and let's call this year, and this one, let's rename it to population. And just a little bit of intro on Power Query. Power Query Editor is just an editor to transform your data. It doesn't change your existing data. As you can see your workbook at the back here, it has all the applied steps here on the right. You can see all the changes that you've made. If you notice here, when the file first loaded, there's a step automatically taken by Power Query, so you can compare the difference between these two. And what changed is that Power Query automatically changed the format type of the data and assigned a number formatting into the number column. So I'm not gonna argue with it that much at this point, but just know that you can do all sorts of data prepping in Power Query. So now once I have this, just go to Home and you can close and load. And what it does is it creates a new worksheet in your Excel, and you can see there's about 12,000 lines of data there. So the good thing about using Power Query is that your unpivoted data here is linked and connected to the original data here. So if, let's say you have a new data for 2019, you can just copy and paste the data, create a new column there, and I'm just going to do this for one data. And when you click refresh, you can see that the new data is automatically being picked up. So, and if you have a pivot table linked to this data set, it will also be automatically updated as well if you refresh the pivot table. So I'm gonna go back and undo that change. So let's say you want a simple standalone data set without worrying about the connections. you can just copy this worksheet into a new workbook, and you can just go to the data menu, go to the queries and connection, and just delete that connection. So there you go, your standalone dataset. So that's it, how to restructure your data and some very basic introduction to Power Query.